The Vedas laid down injunctions and prohibitions. They regulated the actions of men propelled by kama or desire. Men must eat meat. The Vedas said this meat was prohibited, but that could be used. Men mixed with women. The Vedas laid down restrictions. Even they regulated the relations between man and wife. Then the Vedas laid down the duties which men owed to all classes of beings. In order to induce men to accept the Vedic injunctions, the Vedas held out Swarga as a reward of Vedic karma. They even favored the belief that there was to be immortal life in Swarga gained by the performance of Vedic karma. Detailed rules as to the performance of Vedic sacrifices were given. So long as men did not aspire to become Indra or the ruler of Swarga, the Devas were pleased with the sacrifices. They helped the performer as much as they could, giving them all objects of desire, and they welcomed them to Swarga. When they passed to that plane after death, the Devas were as friendly to the performer of Vedic karma as they were unfriendly to the immature Trishanku. The Vedic Karma Kanda became thus fully revealed. The revelation was made in the last Treta Yuga of the present Manvantara. At the beginning of the Treta Yuga, the three Vedas were revealed through Pururavas 9:14 to 49. The path of karma was promulgated in Treta Yuga by the division of the Vedas. The great churning was justified. The Devas asserted themselves for the good of humanity. The rishis got the revelation and helped men to place themselves in active relationship with the Devas. Men learned to regulate themselves and to give up the wantonness of material life. And they had a strong inducement to do so in the prospect of eternal life in Swarga. The great actor in this Vedic movement was Rishi Vishwamitra. Others followed him in his quick succession, and there was a brilliant combination of Vedic rishis who propounded the whole of the Karmakanda of the Vedas as it was revealed to them by the force of kalpic necessity. At all times, there have been two parties, one following the current evolution and another going against it. At all times, there have been cavillers and skeptics. The Haihayas and Talajangas were confirmed materialists and great sinners. They ridiculed the Brahmanas who performed Vedic karma and often set themselves in opposition to them. They were very troublesome to the Brahmanas. King Sagar wanted to extinguish the race, but he was prevented from doing so. Possibly Atlantis was the country inhabited by these races, and nature helped the cause of evolution by dragging down the continent itself underwater. The sacred Ganga also flowed at this time, spreading purity over all lands lying on her banks. The Haihayas, however, still flourished, and they had a great leader in Kartavirya. Then came one of the great avatars, Parashurama. He extirpated the Haihaya Kshatriyas and went on killing the Kshatriyas till Rama appeared, and it was then that he thought his mission was over. If there were some Kshatriyas who disregarded the Vedas, there were others who found transitoriness even in Swargaloka and honestly thought that the complete wisdom was not to be found in the Karmakanda. There were for further revelations. At first, the Brahmanas did not look with favor upon these Kshatriyas, but when it was found that the Kshatriyas got real light, they were soon joined by Brahmanas. The foremost of these Kshatriyas was Janaka, and the foremost of the Brahmanas was Yajnavalkya. The further revelations were called the Upanishads. King Janaka found Sita, the consort of Rama, at the end of his plough. Yajnavalkya defeated all the Brahmanas of his time in discussions held at the court of King Janaka. When Rama incarnated, there existed the people of Lanka, a remnant of the Atlantean continent, who had inherited a mighty material civilization, but who were called Rakshasas on account of their gross iniquities. They reached the last point of material downfall and lost all spirituality. They were called Rakshasas as final extinction was their lot, and as a force of dissolution was strong in them. Then there were the regenerate classes who performed Vedic sacrifices. There were a few again who accepted the Upanishads as a teaching, but they could not boldly declare themselves against the performance of sacrifices. Rama finally did away with the Rakshasas. The bard who sang his glory, the great Valmiki, thus began his lay: O killer of birds, thou shalt not live forever as of the pair of storks. Thou hast killed the male, so passionately attached to his consort. Verily, the Purusha in us, The ray of the Supreme Purusha becomes passionately attached to the element of Prakriti in us, so that we may acquire spiritual experiences through the body. And it is a cruel act to separate our Prakritic individualities completely from him by turning ourselves persistently away from the Purusha. But when Rama became an avatara, the fate of the separator was sealed. When the Rakshasas were killed, the rishis were left free to perform the Vedic sacrifices. Rama did something more. He married the daughter of Janaka and by his act openly espoused the cause of the Upanishads. Lastly, Rama offered himself as an object of worship. This was the beginning of Vishnu worship, which makes no distinction between classes and castes. Rama openly made friendship with Guhaka, belonging to the lowest class, whom it was an abomination to touch, for Guhaka was devotedly attached to him as an incarnation of Vishnu. The world admired Rama. No man could reach such eminence. He must be something more than a man. In time, men accepted him as an avatara. At any rate, he was an example to others in every respect. The ethical standard he laid down in his own life was unimpeachable. The world has never seen such sacrifices in the performance of the duties of life. A model king, a model son, a model husband, a model brother, a model warrior, a model friend, the model of models, Rama left an indelible mark as a religious and moral teacher on the age in which he lived and on all succeeding ages. The example was not lost on the world. The many sided picture that Rama presented produced a spirit of inquiry which has never been rivaled in this kalpa. Men thought on different lines. They studied the Upanishads, which had been favored by Rama. They could not forget also that Rama taught salvation for the performers of Vedic sacrifices. Then there was a teaching of his own life. The light was manifold. Independent schools of thought grew up, notably the six schools of philosophy. Each school tried to find its authority in the Upanishads, and the divine scriptures supplied texts enough for all the schools. Every school found a part of the truth, but not the whole truth. Yet, each school regarded its own part as a whole. So they quarreled. The Mimanshakas said that the performance of Vedic sacrifices was all in all. It had the sanction of time honored texts and of the most ancient rishis, and Jaimini supplied the reasoning by which the practice could be supported. The Sankhyas said that the chief duty of a man was to discriminate between the transformable and the non transformable element in him, and when that was done, nothing more was needed. The followers of Patanjali said that mere discrimination was not sufficient, but a continued practice was required. The Vaiseshikas studied the attributes and properties of all objects and sought by differentiation to know the truths. There were others who worshipped the bhutas, pretas, and pisachas so that they might easily acquire powers. Others worshipped the dwellers of Swargaloka. Some worshipped Ishvara, but mostly the worship of Shiva was prevalent. Gifts and charities also were not unknown. In fact, they were very extensive in some instances. But generally, the object of all religious observances was self seeking, more or less. Amidst this diversity of religious ideas and religious observances, seemingly so contradictory, Sri Krishna, the greatest of all avatars, appeared and he brought the message of peace and reconciliation. He laid great stress on the fact that the performance of Vedic sacrifices could lead us only to Swargaloka, but when our merits were exhausted, we were bound to be born again on Bhurloka, our earth. While on earth, we form fresh karma, which gives rise to other births. The performance of Vedic karma does not, therefore, free us from the bondage of births, for, as the Lord said, there is object seeking in these performances. Object seeking for one's own self does not find a place in the higher lokas. Its highest limit is Svargaloka. So long as man remains self seeking, he cannot transcend the limits of Triloki. In the higher lokas, there is no recurrence of births and rebirths. Once you are translated to Maharloka, you live for the whole of the remaining period of the Kalpa, passing through a gradual evolution to the higher lokas. And if you form a devotional tie with the Lord of many Brahmandas, the first Purusha, even the Kalpic period, does not restrict your existence. Liberation is a relative term. It may be from the bondage of births and rebirths in Triloki. It may be liberation from the bondage of Brahmandas or solar systems. Those who worship only material objects remain chained to this earth. Those who worship the dwellers of Bhuvarloka or cultivate aspiration for them become allied to them, and they pass only to Bhuvarloka after death. Those who worship the Devas and cultivate this aspiration go to Swargaloka after death. Those who worship Hiranyagarbha go up to Satya or Brahmaloka. Those who worship the Lord of all Brahmandas pass beyond even the Brahmanda. The first thing that a man should do is to transcend the limits of Triloki. This he cannot do as long as he is self seeking. He should therefore perform his actions unselfishly.